Hi.
Hi. Welcome to What We Thought Would Happen.
I'm Laura Kightlinger.
I'm Daniel Webb.
Hi.
We're very fortunate because we have a Golden Globe winner, musician, an actual genius, Jim Harry, with us today.
Finally.
Actual genius.
We got some brains in the room, finally, between the two of us. Hi.
Hello.
We've already been talking so much. I've asked a zillion questions already. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very, very good.
And Jim is also a dad whose 5-year-old has a song on Spotify.
Yeah, he's a little like a music guy already.
So, Jim, you started in Minneapolis, and I remember you'd mentioned a story about you're working at a club and Courtney Love.
Yeah, she actually rented out my room when I was doing a lot of theater music stuff back then, and I'd done a musical version of Lee Brewer's Shaggy Dog animation. She was living in my room for like about 2 months.
What era Courtney Love is this?
This is kind of really pudgy, weird pre-plastic surgery Courtney Love.
Like Sid and Nancy?
This was like late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just a wannabe. She was a character, I hung out with her a few times. I didn't know her well, but she definitely some interesting hijinks in Minneapolis.
Yeah, like didn't she rip off one of your friends?
Oh, she stole some stuff from me for sure. But then the big thing was Lori Barbero, who is a Minnesota kind of music mom, and was in a band called Babes in Toyland. And, her and Courtney put on a show with I think it was the Butthole Surfers. And then Courtney ran off with all the door money. And
no.
Yes. Yeah. She's dodgy, she is who she is.
Uh-huh. That's fascinating.
Yeah. She's,
when she put on the show, was she with Hole? Was that
No, this is way pre-Hole. It was sort of
was she in a band then or no?
I didn't know her that well. I just knew about that. I'm sure she was had ambitions to do it. Lots of people want to be in bands.
Sure. And were you in a band at that point?
Not really. I had a sort of electronic music project where we were doing lots of 12 inches with my friend Charlie.
What were you playing?
We were just synthesizers, drum machines. There was, there might have been guitar on some of the songs. I doubt it, but we made sort of proto techno records and stuff like that.
Yeah, and don't downplay Horgasm because it was amazing. It was.
Oh man, it was fun. It was definitely fun. It was good therapy for sure.
Jim, I remember you said Horgasm was about to play on MTV, and then they approached you and the band and asked you if you wanted to play on some other thing, or
you were there. So it was actually Howard Stern wanted to do a song for his movie. He was a big Horgasm fan. He was he was banging, I think every day. And, James Murdoch, who started a label called Raucous, which ended up being a pretty classic hip hop label, had signed us. And they were like, Howard Stern wants to do a song for his movie where he can be in the video and stuff. And you and I were both like, nah, that's too sellout. We're not going to do that.
Oh, no. She's I didn't even remember that. Man,
Yes,
so I somehow ruined that.
That was a
you
huge movie.
Yeah, it would probably been a good thing to do. But,
you could have
ultimately, that was
was
I think ultimately that band was not my future. It was fun. I didn't, by the time I was touring the record, I was like, I don't want to do this. This is way too much
What is
work.
that like when you're locked in a project and on the road, but you're brain or heart?
You're just it was, it was just, now I think it's different. You can be a DJ, you can have a laptop, you can have cell phones, all that stuff. But then in the 90s, pre-cell phone, pre-laptop studio, you're just sitting there not being able to read because you're in a van, it's going boom, 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 boom. And you're, you're just kind of a prisoner to that thing. And while I did enjoy performing, I didn't, enjoy it enough to spend the rest of my day being miserable. So.
But you had so many good clips on that. I remember, I don't know if it was Robin Bird, or I think it's these two young girls.
And tell them to give it bigger TV.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what we're going to play that song. Tell them to get a bigger TV, if with your permission.
Sure, play it. It's hilarious.
I love it.
I don't think people realize that, like, there's so much of, like, all this other bullshit you have to do just to get to the point where you're on stage playing music. Just even in the daily, like lugging equipment around.
Lugging
other people's
and
bullshit you have
band
to deal
dynamics.
with.
And
Daniel was in a band
just
also.
just to get whatever 45-minute set done, and hopefully the sound is good that you get something out of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much to it that's not satisfying.
I mean, I think right now you're in the height of, you know, playing live, because no matter what kind of music you can do, it sounds better. People know how to do it. But, you know, that's been something that's been working really like over the last 50 years to perfect since the Beatles started raging around.
Right.
You know, so
You've mentioned the Beatles twice. Is that your like formative? What was your like?
Yeah, the Beatles were definitely like, my mom was a huge Beatles fan, so I listened to the Beatles. And
have you met any of the Beatles?
No, I have not, unfortunately.
Oh, you will. Wait a second.
I'm not like really, I'm not so big on meeting people. I've sort of always kind of, nah. You know?
Because it's disappointing.
Well, you know, it's the myth. I don't know, like how I would feel about meeting Paul McCartney. I mean, maybe it would be great, but if it's bad, you know, it's going to like ruin your whole like listening experience.
Is it disappointing to you, Laura?
Well, I had a kind of a crush.
Names.
Sure, I had not a musician, but I had a crush on Kevin Spacey. How about that?
Oh, well, yeah, but you have that amazing photo of you and fucking Bill Clinton, right? And Kevin Spacey.
Giving me the side boob grab.
Yeah, all in one photo.
Yeah.
That's breathtaking.
Yeah.
Wait, how did you meet Laura?
You came to my apartment with Bob Molt's boyfriend.
Oh, my God.
Remember that?
Well,
and Liz Winstead.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I was like, oh, she's kind of hot. Yeah. And then it turned out she was dating my friend who lived across the hall from me.
Who was torturing me, who pretended to have an Irish accent. We talked about that.
What? That's insanity.
Do you keep in touch with Bob Mould?
Bob hit me up about 4 years ago, because we all like kind of, you know, were from that Minneapolis scene, and somebody, you know, a mutual friend of, it wasn't even a friend of mine, it was a friend of his, was, hey, there's this old video of your band, you know, my high school band.
Oh, wow.
And so he sent it to me, you know, but I didn't really talk to him. You know, I toured with him for a bit.
Yeah, with Sugar.
No, pre-Sugar. I was supposed to be in Sugar, but I got fired, I think, because I was working on Rue's record.
Oh.
And that was maybe a little bit too GAY for Bob at that point. Like,
whoa,
just in
wait,
his,
talk about that. Hello.
well, he was super, I mean, he got, obviously became uncloseted, but he was, you know, his whole fan base is all heterosexual,
and he would
kind of nerdy dudes, you know, and I think he, you know, he was an astute business person, probably at that point knew it was not going to be a good business move.
Well, was he in the closet when his boyfriend was taking like months painting my apartment, and then I came home and he was in my clothes? Do you remember that?
what?
I don't remember.
His boyfriend, whose name I can't remember, was painting my tiny one-bedroom apartment. Not even a one-bedroom. It was like a railroad. It was like the bedroom was in a hall of this, and the shower was in the kitchen. This is in New York.
Yeah.
And I paid this guy to paint the apartment. It had been months to paint one apartment. I think crystal meth had something to do with it, although that is supposed to speed up a process, but it didn't. And when I came home from the road, he was in my clothes. Remember that?
Whoa, no, I do remember you telling me that, but I didn't see it.
What was he doing in your clothes? Like, was he painting? Was he at least working?
No, he wasn't painting in my clothes. I just came home. I feel like we were had become friends, sort of, and I came home and he was wearing this dress of mine and just like smoking, and I was like, what are you doing? All you had to do was paint.
Was the wall finished at least?
It barely. Because he said, I don't know, he said he'd ran out of paint. And I was like, well, how about getting another gallon and charging me for it or whatever? I don't know what, but it was crazy.
How did you brought it up, I want to ask you 100 questions about it. How did you get involved with working with RuPaul?
I was working on a play in Atlanta. I'd done it in Minneapolis, and it was a musical version of Lee Brewer's Shaggy Dog animation. And I was involved with fringe theater. So we didn't like, you know, kind of straight actors, you know, 8x10 glossy, hey, you know, like that sort of thing. We kind of liked interesting performers. Lee's in his world was a pretty well-known director. And he and Leslie did not show up for the auditions. It was Lee's play. Leslie was the director. And they were like, hey, Jimmy, can you look at the auditions for us? And I was like, was there by myself. I was super young. I was like, okay. But I knew what they liked and I knew what I liked. And after 2 days of seeing the most boring people on planet Earth, I'm sorry, boring people. I don't mean to be mean about that, but it was just not people who weren't right for the show. I've been walking past a poster that said RuPaul is Start Booty. And he was like doing what he called terror drag back then. So it was like, you know, it was a mohawk and boots and a mini skirt. I thought it was a black funk chick. I was a straight dude from Minneapolis, you know, I didn't, you know, I was like, hey, and I literally took the, artistic director of the theater by the neck and said, we need this. This is cool. This is what we need. And then, you know, she said, oh, him. I said, him, even better. And then, you know, he came by and we became friends. You know, he did the show.
You discovered RuPaul.
No, I don't think Randy. I mean, I think RuPaul discovered RuPaul. But Randy, you know, he had already connected with Randy and Fenton before then. So I just kind of, you know, that's how we got connected. And, you know, as I said before, I was doing that version of Candide with Peebo and I wanted Ru to be in it. And he had just come back, I think, from Florida. I don't know where he came back from. He was out of New York because he was depressed and came back and said, Jimmy, I'm so glad I ran into you. And I said, Ru, I'm glad I ran into you too. I want you to be in my play. No, Jimmy, I don't want to do that. I'm ready. I want to do songs with you. And I was like, you know, you're not going to do songs. You're going to be in my play. And this literally went on for like 3 weeks. And finally, of course, me being a softie, I acquiesced. And it was...
What was it you didn't see at that moment?
Well, I thought
Not
he
that
was.
You missed something.
I mean, I you know, I think he's a star. I remember he took me to my very first. He was like, Jimmy, I'm doing drag. You want to come see me do drag tonight? I was like, 100%. So I was like, whoa, this is like, he is a fucking genius. You know, it was like so good. I think the question for me really was, I didn't think he had enough of a voice to pull it off initially, but you know, I worked on with him for like a year and a half, and we kind of just got it to enough where he could kind of sing a song.
Absolutely.
And that was, you know, that was enough. You know, I don't know if it was enough for him to have a long career being a singer, but he just needed one little spike
elevation
for people to see him because he just is what he is. And he's a force of nature. You know, he's so lovable. But
that was the thing that catapulted.
Oh, 100%.
Like, no question.
What was the song?
Supermodel.
Right.
Yeah. And Supermodel of the World
That's
is the album, right? But it was huge. Like as a pedestrian, that was something on my radar down in Texas that popped up. Like, who is RuPaul? What is that?
Oddly enough, it was weird because it was not a big hit by traditional standards. You know, went to like number 44 on the Billboard charts. It was the number one MTV record. The video Randy and Fenton did for it was amazing and it really caught him. And that's all it needed, you know. And he went and had his little thing and went up. And then when they got together and do Drag Race, whoa, incredible.
So, I mean, you've worked with a bazillion people. How do you approach? So, like, you knew what you wanted out of that situation, right? You could kind of see that this needed work, maybe. How difficult is it at the entry point of collaborating with someone?
I mean, it's different every time and every situation is different. Ru and I had a lot of fun. We made some amazingly silly records that, you know, never came out, but I really love. And we just had fun doing it, you know. I've kind of, you know, as we got into it, probably got less fun, but I feel like the world needed somebody like that at that point. You know, it was very, you know, kind of very strong feeling that, you know, why shouldn't this guy be a star?
Absolutely.
He deserves to be one. So boom.
And Jim, you worked with Madonna too, right?
Well, yeah, I did.
That's what I have to say about it too. You know, she was on Will and Grace too.
Madonna.
Yeah.
Did you work with Madonna?
Yeah. Well, she was on Will and Grace, but no, I didn't work with her. I just heard.
I mean, I didn't really work with her. We had kind of started a song, and the person producing her record heard it and said, "Oh my God, Madonna's going to love this." And then, you know, she finished it up and it ended up being for her movie. And
you won the Golden Globe for that song, right?
Did.
That's amazing.
I don't know how amazing it is.
Well, what do you mean?
I think Madonna won it, you know. No. Is it the world's best song? I'm not so sure. But it is, you know, it was a fun party. I'm glad it happened.
Yes. Talk about the party.
You know, you're sitting there, you're drinking. I was like, I had a Vicodin because I was really nervous. And I was drinking, like, they have really good vintage champagne, like all you can drink.
Wow.
And it's like totally fun. I was table sitting next to Johnny Depp's agent and some people from, what's the company? Who's the who's the guy who's under arrest now or in jail?
The president?
No.
Harvey Weinstein?
Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was the producer of it.
Wow.
And so like it was all the people from his company, and then, Brad Pitt and all these cool people would be coming by the table.
And you have your globe.
I do have it. It's just down the street.
No, I mean, but in this moment. You're
No. You sit there and I didn't think we were going to win. I thought Elton John was going to win for sure. And I'm a huge Elton John fan.
Sure.
And the main reason that I was excited to go was to go say hi to Elton John.
Yes.
And there was a really bad cat fight going on between Elton, his partner, and Madonna. And so like after I won, which was a bit of a surprise, I'm like, see Elton across there, I was kind of walking to him, and he looked at me like,
oh no.
And I was like, this is not the time to say hi.
Because you were in the Madonna camp.
Obviously.
In the middle of this cat. What was the cat fight?
Well, they had an ongoing fight for quite a while, Elton and Madonna, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about it. I just knew they were, there was a lot of tension between, who was going to win it. And afterwards, I saw some music supervisors, and they were like, yeah, this was a really important project for Elton. And he was, he had he wanted to win it. So I don't know.
What is that?
And I have to ask, I'm sorry, Daniel, to interrupt, but which one of Elton John's farewell tours was this?
I don't.
I think that's an even crazy evolution, because you're a music fan at an early age. Elton John's been in the game since
I was too in the beginning.
Now you're like a contemporary, you're a colleague. Like, what is that? Is that a head trip at any moment?
I mean, I don't ever think you're really a contemporary of somebody like Elton John. He's like worlds above me. It's nice to, like a couple people know.
You could sell out Dodger Stadium if you really wanted to.
I couldn't sell out the Dunkin' Donuts. Let's call it for what it is.
Jeez, come on.
Nobody's going to come and see this old dude for sure.
So you write songs and sometimes someone else buys it or takes it over, or it's given to someone, and then they... Like, is it just gone from your hands at some point? And then
it depends.
What is that like?
Sometimes you produce it, and then it is ultimately in your control. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, somebody cuts songs and they either do a great job or they fuck it up.
Yeah. Are there times when you're like, what happened to my song? Or is
there's been definitely times where you're just like, what are you doing? What did you do? And then you try to raise a stink about it. It sort of never works. Mm-hmm. Once you sort of like let it go, you sort of have to take what it is. So I try not to do that unless, there's obviously like no other choice.
Yeah.
Can you have something, Jim, in your contract that says that whatever artist that you have like a final say, or I mean, is there such a thing as saying, giving this over and then it can't be revised or anything?
The thing that gets the most sticky is when you co-write the song with somebody. It happened a lot with a couple songs I thought were fantastic, like in the last 5 years, where an artist took it and thought, oh, this is amazing. And yeah, they botched it. Luckily, in the new age, people will, if it's a single, and they'll do sort of a stripped down acoustic version or something like that. And in both the cases, thank God they did it, because those versions were way more successful than the initial versions that they produced. When we had like perfectly good records of them, but they weren't seeing the record the way I was seeing the record. And it happens.
Yeah. So people overproduce it maybe just to keep their job?
Or they do they just kind of, I did this song with this one guy, Brett Denon, and he did this, I think he thought I was thinking of it sort of as a Violent Femmes sort of vibe. And it was a great song, and it sort of fit more into what he was as an artist. And he's sort of like one of these Americana AAA guys. And he went and made like what was, I would say, like, I'd only describe it as Guitar Center Weezer version of the song. It was like unbelievably off.
I don't think people know the trauma of going to Guitar Center, specifically in the guitar area, where there's always one lone guitarist who's in the middle of like a 20-minute whatever solo. It's the worst experience. Like the workers all look shell-shocked.
Oh yeah. They just have to be able to tune it out after a while, I guess,
Are there people you still want to write music for? Like, or do you think that way?
No, I don't think that way. I'm not good at targeting stuff for people. I just write something and usually it finds its way to the right place. You know, if you're in a room with somebody, then it's easier to zoom on to what they're going to like. But I think my kind of sensibility is fairly peculiar.
What are you listening to?
God, honestly, I've been listening to Beatles nonstop because my kid just listens to the Beatles nonstop. And then I'll listen to Radio 1 when I'm running, you know, because Radio 1 has great shows. And I kind of went on Spotify overdose, like New Music Friday killed me. I just, there is a lot of really great, well-produced music now. There's like way too much to consume. So you just have to have a filter. You just have to say, okay, you're going to choose for me what I'm going to listen to. And I'm not even going to think about it. And if there's something I like, I will add it to my other playlist in which I listen to, you know, like for reference.
I've been listening to The Fall.
The Fall.
Oh, yeah, you said that. Laura and I want to start a band. Laura's learning drums.
Oh, there you go.
So I was like, I play shitty bass, which was great for someone who's learning drums.
And it's great for The Fall.
Have you seen either Paul McCartney or Ringo Starr live?
I saw Paul at Coachella.
Oh, wow. What was it wasn't Coachella, or was it? They were calling it like, but it was them. I think Fleetwood Mac was there.
No, this was Coachella.
Okay.
He headlined Coachella and it was amazing. It was actually strange. I felt like, because I wanted to be Paul McCartney's son. You know? I was like, you know, like, and I thought like, okay, well, I'm going to.
Why did you, I mean, everybody has imaginations like that, but what was your like fantasy about that?
I don't know. Like, I thought I'd be a good dad. And like at that age, I was really obsessed with Paul McCartney. I was like very young, you know, I was probably like first or second grade. So, and, you know, I would be begging, you know, I'd read like the back of Rubber Soul and it'd say fuzz bass, Paul McCartney, and be like, I was saying, hey, I want a fuzz bass.
Yeah.
Can you give me a fuzz bass?
Whatever it was.
My parents would never get me a guitar.
Oh. What was your first instrument?
My mom had a classical guitar. I took some lessons. And then I think later on, I kind of came back to it and she bought me like a really cheap electric guitar. And I really wasn't going to school. I was sort of like probably in a rough spot emotionally. So all I did was play guitar. And that kind of still going.
Was that during your parents' divorce?
Yeah. You know, it was just kind of like, it was just not like a super happy time. But like I learned how to play guitar pretty well. I don't play as well as now as I did back then, unfortunately.
Is that your go-to? You have instruments all over the house. If you're going to
No, I mean, it just depends on what mood you're in and what you're doing. Like I'm pretty comfortable playing piano as well. So, you know, like I do a lot of electronic music, so it can just be on the computer. You know, I have a bunch of old synths. I'm usually too lazy to use, but if it's the right thing for it, if I'm serious, I'll probably pull them out and plug them in.
You have siblings, yeah?
Yeah, I have an older sister.
Is she musical?
She played in a band with me in Minneapolis. She was a bass player.
Y'all were the Carpenters.
We were more, I don't know what we were. I guess so. But she was just the hot girl in the band. And that's basically why people came to see us, was because she was pretty cute.
So wait, you guys met, but you were doing stand-up. How did your worlds cross back then? When you just bummed over to his apartment one night?
Through Liz Winstead, right?
Well, we met then. I can't remember what was going on, but...
I think I was probably chasing this guy that didn't like me very much through all of the East Village. He was in this band, and I was following him around. This is also the same guy that thought I was a blonde because I was wearing a blonde wig, so not very smart. And I think at one point... Jim was like, took pity on me because he was just like, you know, this guy isn't worth, you know, you dragging your ass around. Yeah, she
was like hanging out, like I think at a show, you know, and I was just like, we started talking and then I think we started dating for a while.
Yeah.
Do you remember going up to Alaska with Lewis Black?
Yes.
That was so fucked up.
You went to...
Yeah.
She was like, oh, it's Christmas time. And she was like, hey, you want to come up to a gig with me in Anchorage? And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're dating. So, and it was just like hell. We're in this comic condo with Lewis Black with like, it was just the most ratchet condo. None of us had a car. We were watching It's a Wonderful Life over and over and over again. And basically after we watched it for like the 10th time, that's all it was. There was like 2 hours of daylight a day.
Sure.
And
yeah.
they were like, And then like we like basically all started crying after we watched it like the 10th time or something.
It broke everybody.
We started crying. We're Jews.
That's the movie that broke you guys.
Yeah,
but Jim, I remember that you made the seafood, of course, was amazing. But you and Lewis, it was either lobster or crab or something. It was amazing. We had to make. Well, of course, I didn't know how to do anything.
Yeah, we just basically put Dungeness crabs with Old Bay sauce into boiling water.
Oh shit! I'm glad I forgot about that.
And yeah, it was great.
That's the recipe.
Yeah,
Old Bay saves the day.
But they were already dead. We knocked them out with chloroform first. The crabs.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have tortured them.
They were alive.
I'm trying to make it better. But do you remember that? At the end of the last show, Lewis ordered a round for the whole room, a duck fart, which were 3 different kinds of liquor. Do you remember that? And they were in shots. And anyway, when we got back to New York, that was all the money he made was on buying duck farts for everybody.
Maybe I do remember that a little bit. Poor Lewis. I guess it worked out for him, though.
We'd been going out a couple of months, and that was the first time I had really spent any time with you and your mom. And we were in the Mall of America, and someone recognized me, I guess, either from like a MTV or some special, and said, "Hey, your ass is haunted," quoting the punchline that I had about not having anal sex. But anyway,
in front of his mom.
Yeah. That's what was a little.
Is that the last time you saw her?
No,
my mom would be like totally fine with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she wasn't.
But I just, like from my point of view, like, oh, I'm trying to impress his mother, and somebody's saying this, like, it's just kind of a weird, disgusting thing to say.
Was your mom ever really like starstruck by your career?
I think she was proud of me. I think, I don't know, she always just wanted me to be an accountant or something like that, have a nice, stable life and do all that, which it wasn't for a long time.
Jimmy, you were amazing. That's what his mom had a really high voice.
Aww.
And I think she was really, really proud of you.
Yeah, no, she was definitely proud of me. I don't think she knew what I did, really,
Did you work with her at all when she was dramaturging?
No, we never did anything together. But, the play, The Frankenstein, Playing with Fire, which I told you about, the musical, is actually based on her adaptation of it, which it's really cool because basically, essentially, it's a conversation between Dr. Frankenstein and his creature at the end of his life. And they kind of, go through everything and work everything out. So
I love it.
Oh, that's amazing.
One thing we didn't talk about was your work with Peaches.
Yes.
And how did you get into that world? Peaches is not niche, but she's so otherworldly.
She is, nobody knows who she is, unfortunately.
I had I think Peaches of Peaches in my head, like on rotation for about a year.
Really? I've had friends work with her through the years. She's been working forever.
She's a great artist. She's a great performer. I think that's ultimately her thing. And I was working actually with her niece, Simone Jones, in Berlin. And Simone was like, "Hey, Peaches would like to do a song with you." I was like, of course, I was a huge fan. I'd seen her a few times. And I was like, yeah. And we just ended up kind of doing a song.
Was that on one of her albums?
I can't remember what record it was. Now I can't even remember the name of the song. I guess I should be like more.
But I love Peaches. She's out here now, right? She's in Berlin and here?
I think she's got a couple places here, and she's got a place in Berlin. I mean, she's a Berlin person. When I'm going there, I'm usually working. And last time I was there, I actually, one of my really great friends is this guy, Connor, who was her MD for a long time. I usually stay with him. And he was like, "Hey, it's Peach's birthday. She wants us to come out with her tonight. And, it's Berlin." So I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah, amazing.
And I'm like, "What time?" He says, "Well, she says they're going to go out like at 2 a.m. And I'm like, "I'm not going out at 2 a.m. I got to work the next day. Are you kidding me?" That's Berlin. Gotta love Berlin.
Amazing.
Live music was something you did a lot. Do you miss it, like playing?
Not really. It's just, I do miss playing with musicians, but it is because I never play with musicians. I just play with myself. But it's fun. I don't, it's a hassle. Sometimes I sit in, and even sitting in with people is a hassle.
Why?
It's just because I have a great life. I just go into my basement. It's really a basement, the first floor of my house, and sit down, do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I get to eat lots of food. It's comfortable. If I want good coffee, it's there. I don't have to wait around.
You don't have to say, yeah, that's good. You're on the right track. You don't have to like lie to people about.
Well, I mean, I do.
Or being fake encouraging.
I totally have to do that. I mean, I have to do that to myself too.
I ask if
when I'm doing something I know is wrong, but no, you're great. You can do it.
Because if I'm not performing, if I'm watching a performance, it gives me anxiety or something like that. Do you enjoy going to see like live music?
I do actually, but for the same reasons, I'm just lazy. So, you have to go to a club, you have to wait around. I mean, I went and saw live music last night.
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was at Hotel Ziggy.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this kid Reagan, who I had written a song with for this girl, Ashley Kutcher, who's on Darkroom recently. And I'd kind of seen a couple of his TikToks, and his manager wanted me to come down and check it out. And it was good. He's got an incredible voice.
Talk about that. Like, you can just like be an artist and proliferate your music online in a way. When I was still trying to be a musician, was that you would buy CDs in like jail cases as a way to do, you know what I mean? Or you'd be like pressing cassettes to try to push it. And now you just literally upload it in 10 seconds and then the world
it's a very different world.
Are you in any way analog? I'm so bitter and like analog and everything I want to do.
I try not to get bitter about stuff. It's hard. I did have a bitter moment when during the transition from CD to streaming, where you're just like, oh, you would see your royalties be cut by a third, and
like everybody's striking now. Everybody laughed at Lars for being the guy who was like anti-Napster or suing. Like people really thought that was a joke or greedy.
I mean, it's like, I think everybody has to come to terms with the fact we're all sort of used to a bit of nepotism going on. Back in the day, if you were lucky enough to get a recording contract, that gave you access you were not going to have before. Now there's no difference between somebody throwing his own song on TikTok that he made for $3 to, let's say Madonna making a record for $20 million. And you don't know which one's going to stream better because one might not be good, and it's very hard and very expensive to market these days. And the same thing with the TV and film world. I was just having this conversation. It's just way cheaper to make stuff, and there is a ton of stuff. And when you're on Netflix, the thing that those companies really have over the writers and the actors is they can sit for years. People are still going to watch stuff. Yeah. And there's enough stuff to watch.
They're the distributor. Like, that's the thing. They have the distribution.
And it's hard, it's a hard thing, but, things do change. And, in the music business, I have to say that I'm making the same amount of, I make the same amount of money I used to make. There was a dip for a while, but it came back. And, there's so many more opportunities with all the digital media. If you work on it and you do it, and you can make a place for yourself that wasn't available before. There's a real middle class in that where there never was that before, which is cool. So you
could score movies by yourself.
Basically. Yeah, you can score movies. And I think that's something that's, especially TV, AI is going to take that in about 5 years and eliminate that job for musicians.
How do you, that's very like buzzworthy right now, but as a writer, as a visual creator, like you can just plug something into AI and get it out like an art piece, right? But like as a musician, when everyone's like, there's only 12 notes and the whole thing, and there's been a bazillion songs already written, does that intimidate you? AI coming up? What does that make you?
I feel like it can be a great creative tool. Right now I love the voice generators for sure. They're a lot of fun. Just from a technical aspect, if you want to have Drake singing backgrounds for you and you put them in a stack with some other stuff, it's easy to do. It's like a great creative tool. You can put something in, that's not musical into a voice generator and have it come out. It comes out like amazingly weird and cool. There's so much stuff to do with it. I think it's a great tool. And again, I think a lot of artists are going to be like, oh, here's my thing. You do this, I get half or whatever. If it's good, I'll promote it as myself. That's a great opportunity for people who might not get their stuff heard.
But it's just the generator of it where you just plug an idea in and the concept.
They're not very good right now.
Right. But that's going to improve.
Yeah. I think eventually it will. But, to a certain extent, that's already happened because you have Splice and kids can sit around who don't play anything and they can throw samples together and they can find, hey, this is 120 beats per minute in the key of G, and they can just sit and do that and, they can have a hit with it.
Yeah.
Not,
Wow.
that's no different from AI doing it. It's just people doing it. So I think in 5 years, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to make the song. I'm going to put it on my TikTok.
Did you ever do like studio work as an engineer?
I did. And I served badly, but I did it. I supported my stuff. Remember Prince Studios?
I do.
Yeah.
I used to visit Jim at Prince Studios.
Could you smoke inside the studio?
No.
Oh.
Bummer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was kind of shitty. I can't remember where I used to go to smoke because I was still smoking there.
Where was this? Prince Studios.
30th between 7th and 8th.
Oh, wow. It was your studio?
No, it was this weird Russian dude. It was really ratchet and, it was...
And who were you recording then?
Just anybody who came in and could pay, I think it was $35 an hour, which I got $10 an hour.
Oh my God.
But I think people, because that's kind of the only way I've ever recorded was like that. But it's like people forget that anybody can walk in. It's your job. You're the engineer, but they're really kind of relying on you to glue a bunch of shit together, right?
Well, sometimes yes and sometimes no. It was great to do it. If I had my shit more together, it would have been much better to get a job as an assistant in a real studio. But, I was such a loser, no one would hire me. Mm-hmm. You could kind of if people wanted, we need somebody to play piano, I'd be like, well, I'll do it, but you got to pay me extra money. So you would get, you would do sort of add-ons with all that. And it was fun. I mean, it got tiresome. And then eventually, Rue's record happened and then I didn't have to do it anymore.
So was RuPaul, not to always go back to it, but that was like a defining moment. But for you, were you like, okay, I'm a working musician, I'm a working producer, or was there
I didn't know what the fuck I was. Honestly, I was an opportunist. I did that. And after Rue came along, I worked with Kylie pretty soon after that because she liked that record. And
Kylie Minogue.
That's so legendary.
Yeah.
You've worked with her a few times.
I mean, she did a song we kind of worked on. It was much earlier that became, I think, was a single on her.
So when you're going to okay, hi, it's Kylie Minogue. I want to work with you or do something like that. How much prep do you do before meeting even?
I had written a couple songs and her A&R guy heard them and they were kind of okay songs. And, they said, this English woman's coming out to work with you. And I was like, okay, great. And Kylie Minogue, I don't know who she was, but, I knew she was doing well there. So I went in and then she came over and we hung out for a second. And
she's stunning in case
she's
nobody...
stunning.
I've got a really good story about that, actually.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Have you seen her lately? She's still amazing.
She's just beautiful.
Yeah, so she comes back. You had just dumped me for the first time then. Yeah.
Yes.
So I went on this drinking binge and I got really sick. And I had this song I'd written and I kind of always thought it was good, but I played it for the A&R guy and he was like, no, don't play her this. And then I played it for my publisher and he was like, never play this song for anybody.
Oh, no.
So I was literally supposed to be working on shit for her, but I wasn't. And so I finally kind of 2 days before I was still sick, I came on, reworked this song. I was had a fever of 102 because I'd been drinking for a week. And then, I played it for her just on the piano and she was, oh, I love that. And we recorded it and, became quite the classic Kylie record. But the sessions were fun because I was still kind of heartbroken over Laura.
Yeah.
Laura, you're such a bad person. So Kylie, when Kylie came, she was kind of dressed down, she has really curly hair. She was not
a bad rebound fuck. If anybody,
no, it was not. It wasn't anything like that at all. It was these child star girls have issues. So anyways, so I'm going on and I'm just talking about this the whole time. 2 weeks I'm locked in a room with her. And she went from basically dressing like a dude to wearing see-through clothes. And it was kind of sitting there going, and then we were in Power Station or whatever, it's Avalon. And she would say, hey, Kylie, let's take a Polaroid because it was the 90s. So she comes in, she mounts me and I said, and I'm Polaroid. I said, Kylie, you're hot. And she looks at me, she goes, and walks out. And then she comes back they're 3 months later and the song I did was a successful single. She comes, oh, Jimmy, hello. I heard you were in the UK. You were crank calling me, weren't you? I was going like, no, Kylie, if I had your phone number, I would have made you take me out. You're like, you could take me to cool places. And she's, oh, Jimmy, you bad boy. I know it was you. Just say it was you. I was like, and the A&R guy knew me and he was like, yeah, I'm like, looking like, no. And so this went on for about 3 minutes. And then she walked out and said, oh, Jimmy, you bad boy. I know it was you.
Yes.
Weird.
So weird. She's just, she's just attention. Like, others in that camp. That's my Kylie story.
So describe my favorite lyric. I love Great Wide Open is my favorite Tom Petty song, but I love the line, their A&R man said, I don't hear a single. It's such a clunky line, but it's so exact. Can you just describe that process of like, there's an A&R guy who's like there to filter your product to the artist?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically somebody, A&R people are, sometimes they're producers and writers. Sometimes they're, hustlers. The thing about it is, and that's why something like Squid Games, which would never have been big in the United States 15 years ago, but people like what they like. And Squid Games is awesome, but people didn't have a chance to see Korean films. I mean, I was a huge Park Chan-wook fan. Nobody saw Old Boy or Lady Vengeance or Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, So you go in, you play a song for somebody and they'll go, oh, no, I don't hear it. And then,
Gosh, you can't say you're an idiot. Of course that's a hit.
You're like,
why don't you hear it?
And then you have people, and, nobody knows really, At first you kind of get bitter and you just realize everybody has their zone of music they like. And so if it's something's in their zone, you're going to be more prone to like it. And if it's not, they might not understand it. They'll understand it and say, well, this person's had 2 hits in the last year or so. I better listen to this record and try to understand it. But if it's not their thing, it's not going to be their thing. And that's what goes on a lot, I feel like.
Yeah. Who do you want to still see? Like, who have you maybe not worked with, but even like live? Like for me, it's Bonnie Raitt and Sade. And maybe Janet Jackson. But that's it.
I love Sade.
She's amazing. Her band is sick.
Yeah, she's great. I've seen her live.
What?
Oh, yeah. I saw her at the Bowl.
Wow.
When? Recently?
It was a second ago.
Have you seen her bassist? It's the same dude since the 80s. And he has this rat tail. It's down to his ass. It's the longest rat tail you've ever seen. But I
didn't realize. I always thought the bass line for No Ordinary Love was a sequence synth.
No, it's
no, I know. I mean, I was like, that was a big record for me. I've been trying to do that record for years. Never worked it. Never did it.
Yeah.
Sadly, she's amazing.
So, Jim, what are you working on right now?
Oh, God. Tons of stuff. But I've been actually working on a musical, just finishing up the concept record for it. So hopefully it'll be out in the first quarter.
Wow.
Concept record is?
It's basically the songs we wrote that are nicely recorded. The original Jesus Christ Superstar had a concept record, as did Hadestown, which is a more recent Broadway show.
I used to have the Godspell score memorized. Yeah. I used to be able to play that start to finish.
So it's just a cool record. It's kind of a version of Frankenstein. Great. And so the music's super goth and electronic with, layered with Beethoven and Chopin and, like a little bit of operatic musical theater stuff. It's really fun.
Is this your first musical to work on?
No, I mean, I'd done it before I was songwriter producer. I was doing a lot of stuff in musical theater and installations. I had this whole life before that thing with Rue happened. Yeah, I did installations at the Whitney and Museum of Contemporary Arts in Los Angeles and, did the Kennedy Center, Public Theater, just all this stuff.
Do you like dabble in lyrics and everything?
Oh, yeah. I've had songs.
Because there's like a difference in the writing, or do you find there's a difference in the writing, like story and all that bullshit?
Oh, you mean
not bullshit, but
in writing lyrics for musical theater?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of more fun, though. And in some ways, it's just the same. It just depends on what you're trying to do with it. If you need to tell more of a story, or if you can, convey something that's just more emotional.
It sounds like, Daniel has talked about wearing a cape. It sounds like the lyrics need to wear a cape if it's for theater.
I love to wear a cape when I play music.
It seems like everything's heightened, I would guess. I mean, I guess it's not, but it's
you have to tell the story. But I mean, I think in a lot of, especially country music, you're telling a story. So
right.
It's not that different. Pop music tends to, with a lot of like more left leaning records, they tend to be like a little bit more abstract, but there's a lot of pop music where it's like 1 + 2 = 3. I'm walking here. You're there. Oh, you broke my heart. Oh, it's even more broke now. It just makes perfect sense. It tells a story. Tells a story.
There was a music store in Huber Heights, wherever the fuck that is, Ohio. But it was called Hours Music, and upstairs was this old brewery where it was wall-to-wall pianos, like 100 years old, 150 years old. They're all $500. But they had this gothic grand piano that was so old they only had like 60-something notes on it or something. It was very miniature, but it was like they had like a cape. Like a playing cape next to it. I was like, see, that's the kind of shit I want. Like, put it on and then
That's
play.
so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So into it. What do you do as a musician looking for work, or people find you? You're in a lucky spot, kind of.
Yeah, people hit me up. I'm not usually like trying to discover artists and saying, hey, I can turn you into a star, because I'm so bad at turning people into stars for the most part. I need help to do that in the instances where that's happened.
Are there people you've worked with that beforehand you were intimidated, or maybe didn't think not a match, but like, can I work with this person? Or
I mean, but you learn again. That's something you sort of learn a little after you do it for a while. You just don't know who you're going to hit it off with. You can think somebody's going to be a perfect fit. My writing partner for the musical, he was in this group, which like I didn't hate it, but it was just like, nah, it's not my thing. And we're best friends, and we've done this really incredible work together.
Is that people?
No, it's this guy JC. He was in the group called NSYNC.
Oh,
amazing!
Yeah,
he was one of the 2 singers. So
that's a really funny statement. One of the 2 singers.
I mean, I guess there's 5. I mean, lead singers.
Sure, absolutely. It was him and Justin were the 2 frontmen. I guess you could say.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
And he's a great singer. I mean, he's just such a. It was really fun writing the musical, because with pop music you're always trying to kind of make it more for the common person, but we just went crazy with this, and it's very like stuff's super intellectual and busy and lots of high notes, and it's really fun.
I look forward to it. I want to see it. I'm excited about it.
It took me years to get that pop music is just supposed to be fun. I took music way too seriously for a long time, and I was like, oh, it is supposed to be, some of it is supposed to be disposable, and that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so hard. You want to try so hard to be better, be a good Boy Scout, but sometimes that's just not what the situation calls for. And so, you can write something in 15 minutes and be like, oh, it's done. And then you can spend months writing something. It doesn't, I think it's out of your control when it's going to be great. Something else is speaking through you and you put it out there, but you can't control it. You can't, say, hey, I'm going to make this the best song ever. At least I can't doing it. It just kind of happens for me, and I never see it coming.
There is nothing like more mind blowing though than like a song that comes together in 15 minutes. We're like, wow, it's actually like done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like that starts with something that's in your head, like rolling around, or like a tune, or just something that you've been humming. Or
it's
whatever.
Like sex ends and then the pizza arrives. Do you know what I mean? It's like timing is so rarely that perfect.
Yeah.
No, it happens more than you think it would happen. I feel like you just have to have your receiver on. I feel like, when I'm writing by myself these days, just go to the piano and usually have something in like 5 minutes. And I know it's like, oh, that's good. I'll come back to the next day, spend another 10 minutes, tweak the lyrics for another 5 minutes. And it's usually like 80% there.
Jeez, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you do need to overthink it. There's no rules. That's a great way to do it. And kind of like really chiseling away at something is a great way to do it too. It just depends. I mean, the hard thing to know is when to stop, and sometimes it's really good to stop right away, and sometimes it's absolutely the wrong thing to do.
Sometimes it's week 2 and Kylie Minogue is wearing less and less and less.
Here's what I'm proud of. I feel like I have never intentionally heard a Taylor Swift song.
You gotta get on board. I
won't. I don't know.
I think I'm gonna be with Laura on this one, though. I'm gonna frame it. I think Taylor Swift musically, if you're looking at it just musically, she's not the best singer. my wife, she's a big Max Martin fan. One day I was like, oh, new Taylor Swift record single. So I was playing it in our bedroom and she comes in there and she's like, Jim, stop ripping yourself off. This is the worst. And she's like, she goes into me for like 3 minutes. And she was a Taylor fan. She was like, it's the kind of like, she enjoys that sort of like, well marketed kind of thing. And she was like, you can do better than this. This is really just not good. And I'm saying, finally, I said, this is your boy Max Martin and Taylor Swift. And after that, she went off of Taylor Swift. She went off. Like, it was just kind of like she's never mentioned the name again.
Oh, Mary's great. I like her.
But the social aspect of it, it's art in a really sick, fucked up way, but it's just like you have not lived until you have like Swifties in your studio and you have these like have had several conversations with young writers or artists about Taylor and just like, but the lore of Taylor, I can't believe what Scooter Braun did to her. And I'm like, you're aware that her father was the majority owner of the record company that dude sold. But the lore of Taylor, and like these people are all brainwashed, and I don't know what it is. She's got these people, like she's created a living video game for these people, and it's just, the music is like,
secondary,
not even secondary. It's like it's the fourth level. It's just there. I don't even know why it's there, but it fuels the thing. And there's a lot of stuff like that now. BTS. Have you listened to them? It's awful, right? It's really bad, but nobody cares about the music. It's just kind of like, it's the plate. You really want to eat the apple and the banana bread, right? So, and Blackpink as well. Like, lots to like about them, but they really don't have very good songs. I mean, there's a lot better things going on, and people who have better songs who are a lot in their genre who are a lot less successful than they are.
I just realized as someone who's been to 11 Tori Amos concerts, I have no business telling anybody what good or bad music is. It's like my barometer is so far off. So I take it back. Sorry. If you want to hate Taylor Swift, Laura, you hate her all you want.
I mean,
I don't hate her. I just don't.
It's if you don't have the context, if you're listening to her musically and you're remotely a music fan, because she's never had a big record. The biggest record is "I'm the cheerleader, you're the cheerleader, she's the cheerleader." I don't even know what that song is. She hasn't had like huge records. Like Rihanna's had huge records and she's had serious great hits as Beyonce has, but Taylor's never really had any of those.
But she sold $1 billion worth of tickets, right?
But her manipulation of the media is incredible. And she just like, if you think the Beehive, which is Beyonce's group, is brainwashed, and that's nothing compared to the Swifties. They're just it's this cult. It's a cult.
Wow.
You could tell when she was in town a couple weeks ago, the Swifties were here. You could just see, it's like when the tide comes in. You could just see that they were just like a mom and 4 kids walking around.
And I think that's the sick part of me, is going like, people are going to be talking about this for years.
Forever,
That's going to be in the history books. I don't think people will like necessarily understand it, and I don't think they'll be listening to her records, but they'll be looking at the phenomenon.
Wow.
See, spoken from a professional.
I know.
I like that.
So I have a great deal of respect for her, and her music's okay. It's a good song.
Jim, it sucks. Let's just say it. It sucks. There's no reason for it. I
don't think it sucks. I just think it's not very special, for sure. She's been writing the same song over and over again for, like since she was 16. If it's even her writing them, I'm not sure.
I would love it if she stole it from Courtney Love. That would be great. That would be an amazing twist of fate, right?
Nice to bring it around.
Yeah.
This was great.
Thank you. And we're going to hopefully see your musical
one of these days. Well, we're probably
next year.
We're working on it, trying to get a script we like for it. The record should be out the first quarter of next year. It's going to be called Playing with Fire.
Beautiful.
And hopefully we'll play some shows, because the singers are like dope. I love it. Hopefully
I'm looking forward to it.
5 people will probably listen to it.
Oh my God.
We'll be there. Well, those are our listeners.
Yeah. Okay.
Jim, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
Hey. Bye.
What do I have to do? Imagine what you could do with a beautiful woman with big tits and a 9-inch cock.